Welcome, everyone. Sorry for the echo.
No memento for
All right, if everyone could please join us on the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I apologize, I didn't formally call the meeting to order, so let us begin the December 5th, 2022 meeting of the Carver School Committee.
And as usual, I'd just like to start by saying this meeting is being held virtually in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts' March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Members of the public can access this meeting in three ways: live live at Town Hall, through Zoom, or through Area 58 cable. So we're happy to have everybody involved with us here this evening. We'd like to start tonight. We're pleased to start with a recognition of our Special Education Parent Advisory Council. We're excited about the work the group is doing supporting all of our students. And at this time, we'd like to welcome our Director of Special Education, Melissa Leary, who's going to do the recognition. Melissa, come on up. Welcome to the entire Special Education Advisory Council. We'd love to have everybody come up.
Thank you. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to introduce our newly elected Special Education Parent Advisory Council, CPAC, officers to the school committee this evening. Carver CPAC is excited to reestablish our group this year. Last year, we solicited parent and guardian interest, and this school year, we have held a couple of meetings to elect officers and develop the committee's bylaws and vision. CPAC is a parent-guardian organization to support families of students in special education, either on IEPs or 504s, to assist in advocacy, as well as to serve as a leadership group to advise and collaborate with myself, the Director of Special Education, regarding all matters related to special education planning, programming, and development. Additionally, CPAC serves as a vehicle to learn about needs from our families within the district and to share those needs with the district's leaders in special education so that the parent and family perspective is utilized when making decisions about special education for the district. And now I would like you to let me present to you our CPAC officers that are here first tonight, followed by me naming those who could not attend this evening. So our president is Susan Thatcher.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Our vice president is Diana Wiley.
Hello, bless you.
Our preschool officer is Rachel Seifert Roach. Our elementary school officer is Karen Place. Our social media representative is Melanie Castelli. And then our secretary is Karen Davidson. Our treasurer is Sarah Baker. Our middle school officer is also Sarah Baker. And our high school officer is Lauren Smith. We also are looking to fill 2 open positions, if anyone's interested. We're looking to fill a transition age officer and an out-of-district officer. So we look forward to the valuable and meaningful work this group is going to be conducting this year. And I know that Susan might want to just say a couple words. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hi.
I think what I most want to say is how thrilled I am. I'm a veteran. I've been around forever and had children on IEPs for literally 22 years. I'm very, very happy that Carver has put so much of an effort into welcoming a new CPAC, into encouraging the work, into encouraging us to become official with the Federation for Special Needs and to become a member of MassPAC. I think that's a very particularly important move, that we have the guidance now of being members statewide. With all the other parents who are learning and mentoring every parent in the community about how to be a competent parent of children with special needs and how to work in cooperation with the schools. So I'm very thrilled that we're at this particular point so soon after Melissa got this project going. So I want to thank Melissa from the bottom of my heart for doing so much to get us already to this point. We've actually been very successful already, and in particular the elementary school staff officers have been amazingly successful at making some significant changes to allow our special needs children to have the accommodations they need to fit in on events and for it to go smoothly for them. So again, thank you on behalf of the whole committee and behalf of all the parents in Carver with children with special needs. Appreciate it.
And this year you've had some outstanding turnout for your meetings, correct?
Mhm.
Been averaging maybe 10 to 15 people, maybe a little more?
A little more
More?
even.
Yeah, that's great to see so much parental involvement in support of our students. Ultimately, that's what we want to see happening in all of our programs across the district. And I thank you personally for taking the leadership that you're all taking and having that happen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you for coming. We look forward to hearing more about your great work. So thank you to all of you and the other members that aren't here for stepping up.
Not to put a little pressure on you, anything exciting coming up that the group would like to share with the community?
I think we're still working on that.
Actually,
Go, go.
if my elementary school people, Winter Wonderland's coming up, right?
Oh, it just
Just-
happened.
just
Just
happened.
happened.
Just happened.
See,
Yes.
I told you,
happened.
Next year.
It was
Yeah, it was amazing.
I mean, I think that the projects that we're talking about, working on is working on some diversity education in terms of, for peers, in school. We have such a wide range of, disabilities of children who are attending public school, and we're talking a lot about working on a project to, go into the schools and have, people speak to the children in the classrooms with the teachers and the paras about how they can better have an understanding of what they're looking at every day and what to call it and how to develop some appropriate language around it to increase, their diversity skills. So that's sort of the next exciting project that we've been talking about. We're certainly available, from, to anyone in the community, from this committee, to all the parents, to anyone that has any ideas of what they'd like to see us work on. Very available, just let us know.
That's so great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
for
All right, thank
volunteering.
you for being here this evening.
Thank you very
for
much.
volunteering time.
Okay, so do we have someone from the EAPC? Oh, I see Tammy.
We do.
And one quick housekeeping thing, I just want to mention, we do have a member that's attending remotely, so we will be doing a roll call for all of our votes this evening, just so everyone is aware, so Kelly is aware as well.
And Tammy, you should be, there you go, Tammy.
There we go. Thank you. So, good evening, everyone. I have just a few short notes that I'd like to share. And I think it goes perfect after that recognition. So, I just wanted to mention how proud I am of being part of a district that is really committed to educating all of our students. And I just wanted to share this poem, and I hope it resonates with me, and I share it very often with my students. It's called, "I Did My Best Today." That simple phrase has changed my life, because after a wonderful day where everything went as planned, I know I did my best. And when a day goes terribly wrong and everything falls apart, I still know I did my best. Because doing your best isn't about productivity or success. It's about being yourself in the midst of the good and bad, the beautiful and the stressful. There's freedom in laying down your expectations of being a perfect version of yourself, and embrace the idea that there is no such version of yourself. It's all you. And who you are is more than enough. It's by Topher Kirby. So I just wanted to share that because I think that's pretty powerful to remember. And as we all are going through this journey of process of growth and change, to just remember that that we're just doing our best. So thank you, Stephanie. I hope everyone has a great holiday. And I know it's kind of early, but the next time we meet will be in January. And I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you, Tammy.
It's a little early in the meeting, Tammy, to be making me cry. That was beautiful.
That was very nice. Okay, so that brings us to comments from the general public. So if there's anyone that is online in Zoom that would like to speak during public comment, if you could please enter your name into the chat and you will be recognized. And if there's anyone in the room that would like to speak during public comment, now is the opportunity. So I'll just wait a moment to see if anyone puts their name in the chat. I don't see anyone in the room moving to the microphone, so,
And no one has put their name into the
Right.
chat.
all right, so we will move on to approval of minutes for the November 15th, 2022 open session minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the November 15th, 2022 open session minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in, well, actually, sorry, roll call vote. So, Jen,
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Katie,
Kathleen Sullivan, aye.
Kelly,
Kelly Mimi, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. Thank you. So that brings us to communications.
We have a few communications this evening. First in your packet is just the Reed's annual report. Reed's Academy is one of the collaboratives that the district belongs to, and I serve on the Reed's Board of Directors at the will of the committee. And they do create an annual report that they ask we share with all school committee members. And my intent isn't necessarily go through the key pieces of the Reed's report, but I wanted to share it with you in the background and make the public aware that we had shared it with the community. Also, the only thing I would mention about Reed's is they are in their second year of being in their new building, which is just, it really is an outstanding facility. And so we do have a few students who are there, and it really has, I've gone on a tour on the building a couple times, and I was on the building committee originally when they moved into that building. And it just has the sense of a traditional high school. So when you walked into that building, you would feel like you were walking into a high school anywhere in America. And sometimes your collaboratives don't always have that feel in terms of their facilities and where they are and the types of buildings that they have available to them. And they've really done a good job of transforming what was an insurance building into a school. And so that, I think that's really been a positive for us as being a member of the Reed's Collaborative. So I figured I'd just share that with the committee. Second piece is we did get a notification that from DESE about compliance with special education. On November 14th, we were notified by DESE that the district meets the requirements and is in compliance with all special education regulations. This is a report that is issued annually. And they have a rubric which they score the district on. And the rubric focuses on specifically our 5-year cohort graduation rate for students with disabilities, our annual dropout rate for students with disabilities, our monitoring of special ed compliance data, so looking at are we in compliance with all regulations around special education, and it looks at the number of what's called PRS complaints, which are problem resolution system complaints that the district has had, and if there were any findings in any of those complaints. So the district did not have any findings, and then overall, on the rubric, it's a 30-point rubric. We scored a possible 25.5 out of 30 points, or they actually give you a percentage score, so we got an 85 on the rubric, and an 85 meets the standard of having a final final finding of that we meet all requirements in regards to special education based on the review this past year. So this is good news. Obviously, we scored an 85, but I thought we scored a little higher. So we'll be looking at the different pieces of the rubric and seeing in which ways we can improve our performance. But I want to share that with the committee.
Great.
And then the third one is also very exciting. So we were notified on November 30th that we are receiving, Carver Middle High School is receiving a $93,000 implementation support grant for our innovation pathways. So this money is specifically designed to support our MET manufacturing pathway and our environmental and agricultural sciences pathways, the EAS pathways. Those are the two pathways at the middle high school that have been deemed by DESE as innovation pathways. And as innovation pathways, there are grant opportunities available. Meredith, as always, did a great job with seeking grants and put the grant application forward. And we were notified last week that we've received the grant for $93,000. And I'm going to give Meredith a minute or two right now just to talk a little bit about what we may be doing with those grant funds.
Excellent.
Thank you. So yes, we are very excited. This, by and large, is the largest grant that we have been able to obtain linked with innovation pathways. And in a few moments, I'll be talking about all the pathways, but as Mr. Neef stated, this is specific to implementation for manufacturing, engineering, technology, and environmental agricultural sciences. So held within the grant application is funding to help offset the cost of supplies and materials, and then some training, and then some upgrades to our outdoor physical plant to be able to support the growth and development of those programs. So as you know, we have a greenhouse that is in process and we'll be building, and so these funds will help support further expansion. And there's also a little bit of money in there to support the fees and expenses related to industry-rated credentials. So as students go ahead and get their OSHA 10 certification or their OnShape certification, which are desirable industry-rated credentials for them to be able to get jobs after high school, it will help offset that cost.
Nice.
Thank you.
That is great. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to reports from the superintendent.
Okay, first is personnel updates. So we have had a few staff movements since our last meeting. We have a few new hires. Rochelle McGinnity is an ESP in kindergarten at the elementary school. Anne Marie Matrano as a payroll administrative assistant, long-term substitute. Anne Marie was the retired administrative assistant of the superintendent for many years, from Elizabeth Sorrell to myself. So we're glad to have Anne Marie come back and do a long-term substitute for us for Casey Crucia. We've had one transfer. So Gail Boudoin is becoming a family consumer science teacher in our CAP program from an ESP in the CAP program. So the CAP program is our alternative program that's housed at central office. That program actually has 2 teachers and an ESP. And Gail is moving from the ESP position to be one of the teaching positions. So we're excited about that, and we'll be looking to hire an ESP to finalize the staffing in that program. And then we've had a couple resignations. Kimberly Koch is an ESP in kindergarten at the elementary school, and Mindy Strobus is an ESP special education at the Carver Middle High School.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we're excited about our next presentation. The athletic department and the administration have joined together to form a student advisory council. And we're excited tonight to have Mr. McGinnis, assistant principal from the middle high school, and I believe our newly elected president of the said student athletic advisory council, Mackenzie Wall. So they're going to come forward and give us a presentation about the formation of the group and what they're looking forward to do. And please welcome Mackenzie and Mr. McGinnis.
Great, welcome.
Thank you very much for having us here tonight. I'm going to do a brief introduction. I'm going to have Mackenzie Wall speak to everybody in regards to the group. We formed the Student Athletic Advisory Committee because what we wanted to do is we wanted to give a voice to the students to be able to have a review process through athletics, as well as the academic side of the house for Carver Middle High School. And what this group is being done, it's put together. Mackenzie Wall is the Student Athletic Advisory President. We have Phyllis Bowie, who is our middle high school athletic director, myself. We will both be chairs to this. If we could go to that next screen just for everybody to see kind of what we're looking at. The committee was established in December. It's been discussed, though, from the start of August in regards to taking a look and giving that voice again to our student athletes and giving them a vehicle to be able to present ideas, review athletic and school policies and procedures, and to be able to have them be able to provide a voice again. You'll hear that voice come up time and time again tonight. And we wanted them to be able to present, have them have a way to present their ideas, and to be able to have Miss Bowie and myself be able to present ideas to them, to be able to get the feedback. So now, without any further ado, Miss Wall, if you could take over from here.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Mackenzie Wall, and I'm a junior at Carver Middle High School. I play volleyball and I do track, and I'm currently doing winter track. For our first slide, we have the 2022-2023 Student Athlete Advisory Committee members. The chairs are Mrs. Bowie, our athletic director, and Mr. McGinnis, our assistant principal. And then to the right, I have all of the names of our members that have just been selected. They range from all grades, 8 through 11. And then We also have our 8th grade representative. His name is Jack Trudeau. So he is representing the 8th grade for us. So I'll be talking about the selection process first, and then I'll go into the meeting process. So how we were selected, we applied via Google, and we answered some questions in regard to their background and how it would help serve the committee. We were selected by both the adult chairs, and then we were notified through an email if we were selected. Myself, the president, I was selected by the adult chair members, and other executive positions will be voted on by all members of the committee. And those positions would include vice president, secretary, and booster representative. And our meeting process, we will be meeting every day during our win block. Our topics for discussion will be created by the committee at the previous meeting. Feedback on all the topics will be submitted to the chairs and within 48 hours of the meeting that we previously had. All voices of the committee will be heard and valued at each meeting that we have. So for our first meeting, we went around the table after introducing ourselves, and we talked about things, outstanding things in athletics, or things that we think are going really good in our athletic program. So some of the things that we all came up with were sportsmanship, the passion for our sports and our athletic program. We all agreed that school spirit is doing really good right now. We agreed that our teams work well together. We have great communication throughout our teams. Our teams are always supporting each other. We go to each other's games. And we always just have a positive outlook. No matter if we win or lose, we walk away from it with a positive attitude. And we also discussed possible discussion topics for what we would like to talk about at our meeting. Things that could just be better, that could always be improved upon. Some of the things we talked about were the athletic rules and guidelines. So that would include things like academic standards, having to have that 70 average to participate in your sport. We talked about student parking, participation on teams, and that would be like middle school participation compared to the high school. We talked about uniforms and having a replacement cycle, possibly for getting new jerseys for all of our teams. We talked about increased student attendance at games and certain school events, athletic communications plan, building of programs for longevity, MIAA opportunities for our student athletes. And we also talked about the scheduling of games, out-of-season team workouts / team bonding with each other to really keep that team environment happy, very positive, supportive team. We talked about live streaming, equipment review, more activity on social media for all of our teams. We talked about Captain's Council partnership and as well as training for our Captain's Council. We talked about having a mascot, having fan buses for away games. And lastly, we also talked about a speaker series for the Carver students, which would be a speaker would come in who specializes in certain topics. And some of those main topics would be toxic language throughout our school, mental health, sports psychology, things like that. And
Great.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I will say that I'm very excited to have this group formed. I think one of our focuses has been in terms of increasing student voice and participation in all the things that are happening in our schools. And actually tying back to our original presentation and recognition of the SPED PAC is also increasing parent voice and communication. So some of that during the pandemic, some of that died a little bit. And some of our focus areas has been trying to build some of those things back and build these groups back. Now, this isn't a group we had before, but I think it's an outstanding opportunity for our students to have voice. And the range of topics here that you want to look at in terms of athletic is pretty, it's a good overview. But it's a wide scope. It's a lot of things. But I think these are the things that people are talking about in athletics. And I think it's important that we as the administration hear from our student athletes in terms of what their thoughts are. So, and then personally, Mackenzie, I thank you for taking on the leadership role and being willing to engage in this work.
Thanks.
Yeah, I echo Mr. Neef's sentiments. I am very excited to have more student voice. I think it's really important for everyone, including all of us, to hear from students as much as we possibly can in the district so that we can make sure that as a school committee that we're doing what we can to support you. So thank you for forming this, for stepping up, and I look forward to hearing more about your great work in the future.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. It's a great list, and that's exciting.
Looking forward to the group altogether. And Mackenzie has done a tremendous job from the get-go, so this will be great.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for being
Thank
here
you.
this evening.
All right, that brings us to Dr.
Pathways update.
Erickson.
Dr. Erickson,
Pathways
Pathways
update. Very exciting.
All right, thank you. So we wanted to take this opportunity just to fill you in on work that we've been doing this year with our pathways. I feel like this is kind of a now annual or semi-annual experience, and we appreciate the opportunity to give you some updates. So the big picture itinerary for this presentation is to give you a bit of an update on course offerings and enrollments, and then some opportunities that we've been able to uncover as the work continues on, and an opportunity to share some goals for this year. So under course offerings and enrollments, before we begin, I thought that this quote was very poignant. So all the world is a laboratory to the inquiring mind, which is really the basis of what we want all pathways to be. We want students to develop that natural curiosity. So I'm going to go through the 8 pathways and just give a quick update on a couple of things. And before we do, I want to kind of be a tour guide on what these slides mean. So the title of the pathway is obviously in the front left or top left portion of the slide. And then we have different classes that make up the pathway. And some classes we're not yet running, so that will be noted with an asterisk. And then I also have the little skills thread through there. So skills that students will learn and be able to apply to their work. And then in the upper right-hand corner is the current number of students taking these courses, but that number is a little misleading because it can be the same student that is in multiple classes, and they would count double or triple. And then the other thing is this includes students that may not know that they're involved in a pathway. They're just taking the class as an elective. So it's not like we have 182 students that are part of the health and wellness pathway and it's fully articulated. So I just want to be very transparent about what those numbers mean. It's individual seats, but I wanted you to see that seat count as we go through. So starting with health and wellness, again, you'll see the classes list there, and in this pathway, students are able to get CPR and first aid certified, as well as AED trained, and they gain skills in nutrition planning, designing personal fitness and wellness plans, and ultimately when they leave, if they desire to become personal trainers or work in kinesiology or sports medicine, they can get their personal training certificate. In the next slide, we have manufacturing, engineering, technology, and you'll notice that the course titles have changed a little bit. Last year, we had lots of different individual kind of focused opportunities. So we had Introduction to MET, and then where it says Principles of MET or Advanced MET, we had things like robotics and aerospace mechanics and engineering, and all of those have now been enveloped within these kind of broader umbrella classes. And part of that reflects the change from the block schedule back to a year-long schedule, and the idea that if students are in a year-long class, that differentiation and that opportunity to explore their passions can come under a larger class title like Principles of Manufacturing. And then the skills developed include engineering design process, laser cutting, computer-aided design, CNC machining, both additive and subtractive, computer-aided machining, programming, manufacturing techniques, 3D printing, and so on and so forth. So 132 seats involved in the MET program. Our newest our newest innovation pathway, environmental agricultural sciences, includes STEM Inquiry Lab, Principles of Ecology, Marine Ecology and Fisheries Management, and Zoology and Animal Science. This year we were unable to offer horticulture and sustainable agriculture, but have talked about the possibility of offering those next year and then kind of cycling through every other year. And I'll explain the thought behind that in just a couple of minutes. And skills include micropipetting and soil and water testing, species identification, serial dilution, electrophoresis, field sampling methods, experimental design, and so on and so forth. So 107 seats in that particular pathway. In biotech, you'll see some of those same skills show up. I'm going to go from the bottom to the top this time. So in addition to some of those skills, we also have CRISPR and PCR programming and gram staining and diagnostic and aseptic technique as part of microbiology. And it includes the biotech labs as well as anatomy and physiology and some of the other sciences. But it starts with STEM Inquiry Lab and then careers in life sciences, and 104 seats dedicated to that. Computer science, there are 26 seats, and part of that, you'll notice that number is a lot less than the pathways that I've presented thus far. Some of that is the layout of the Project Lead the Way program and the commitment that's made year long. So some of the classes that I've talked about may run for half a year or may have the option of just kind of popping in and popping out. And so the computer science group has talked about this, and we've talked about ways of maybe taking some of these classes and breaking them into two and being able to offer like Python for the first half of the year and then, something around cybersecurity for the second half or so on and so forth. So as we continue to work on this, we're going to change that so that it can more easily fit into student schedules. So we have computer science essentials, cybersecurity, and then computer science principles. And at the end of computer science principles, students are well primed to take the AP computer science exam, which will be offered to them upon the completion of that course. So you can see that this pathway covers text-based and block programming, website and app design, VEX robotics programming. So our MET program is heavily focused on VEX robotics, but this is where students are actually engaged in the programming language, Python, analyzing network traffic, and defending individual and network data and identifying suspicious data. Moving on to culinary hospitality, we have 69 seats here, which includes some opportunities in introduction to marketing and communications, but really is part of the National Restaurant Association's designated program, which is called ProStart, and the skills that students leave with, in addition to basic restaurant and culinary skills, are also Serve Safe and ProStart. So when they leave, they are directly able to go into work in a kitchen with those qualifications. Our visual and performing arts is highly differentiated. And again, you'll notice that there are some asterisks here just to talk about the fact that some of these programs are being offered and some we've been unable to offer, but plan to in the future. So here students can choose between a vocal and instrumental and a creativity track in the music prong, and then in the fine arts prong, they're able to focus on traditional two-dimensional and three-dimensional design and drawing and painting, as well as the more digitalized application of fine arts, which would include digital photography and graphic design. And then you'll see down below that while a specific skills thread isn't listed for each of these, that there are courses that we're interested in integrating into the future, like arts and culture and music theory and composition, and so on and so forth. So 359 different seats in these classes, but again, it could be a student that is opting for an art elective, which is a requirement for graduation. And then business and entrepreneurship. 131 different seats. And this includes Introduction to Marketing and Communications, Marketing 1, and Technical Writing. And will give our students the opportunity to start to learn about business leadership and finances, as well as budgeting and business plan creations, looking at digital marketing and analytics, and going as far as looking at things like social media campaigns and how to manage data cycles. We all know that big data is ever present, so this would be the more applied version of that. So that's right now kind of a layout of where we are in terms of course enrollment and how our students are accessing those. And so we decided to leverage a couple different opportunities this year and be really vulnerable and say, look, we started these pathways 2 or 3 years ago, depending on when a pathway, quote unquote, began. And we understand and expect that there are going to be growing pains as these are developed. So we thought that a couple of structural changes would be important for this year, including doing maybe more informal data collection, listening to students and to teachers and pathway representatives about where are some opportunities that we can celebrate, and then where are some pieces that we can build off of to maybe calibrate expectations and to support scheduling and making sure that communication is clear for students. So a couple of things that we've done is, again, we've solicited feedback from students and we've examined the information that I just shared around course offerings. We also are holding monthly meetings with a consistent representative from each pathway who can be used to kind of represent their pathway and import and export information that we talk about. And then additionally, this fall, we've met with every individual pathway and all the teachers in it, with the exception of biotech. We're actually meeting tomorrow. There was a little bit of a scheduling issue. But other than that, we've met with everybody. And the idea around that is we wanted to analyze all that data and look for trends. So what are we hearing that are consistent concerns or consistent questions that we're getting from the different pathways? And then what are some things, again, that we can celebrate? Additionally, we have a professional development model for some of our half days that allow for something that we call strand work, which I presented a couple of meetings ago when we were talking about PD, but basically on half days, that same group of teachers are able to get together to focus on the same thing. So we have a pathways group that gets together and they're able to focus on.
We'll be doing that tomorrow as
We
well.
will, yes, during our half day. So it'll be great. So the other thing is, if you're familiar with a SWOT framework, I'll talk about that on the next slide. But after going through and looking for these trends in the 7 of the 8 pathways and these other data sources, we've started to etch out what are our strengths. And so these are kind of our guiding questions here. And then where are our weaknesses, not in a traditional sense of weakness, but where are opportunities for improvement. And then what are our big picture goals and how can we take advantage of those? And then what are some potential limitations or threats in being able to do that? So I quickly outline kind of the big picture strengths. So we've definitely broadened our inventory of unique and relevant course offerings. Over the past 3 years, the number of electives that we've offered has really grown. And that's a direct result of these 8 pathways that are in the process of developing and strengthening. We've also been able to increase student access to a whole suite of exciting instructional strategies that are used. And through that, we've had more student voice and choice and project-based learning. We've had increased student engagement, increased critical thinking, collaborative and individual problem solving, and then more formative assessment where students are getting feedback in real time. And you were witness to that last year during the MET showcase that we had. So you could see students were working on things and they could really quickly identify if they needed to kind of do a mid-course correction to be able to create whatever it was that they were engineering in their individual stations. The other thing that I feel is really palpable, and I credit administration for this, I credit teachers for this, I credit students for this, and just the overall culture of these pathways, is that there's been a lot of magnified teacher energy about learning design. So oftentimes I'll walk into a meeting or someone will grab me in the hallway and they'll be like, you wouldn't believe we just did this, or we have this idea. Do you think that there are resources for it? And that level of stamina and excitement is exciting. There's also been increased interdisciplinary opportunities, and I think departments have both grown together through this process and also have branched out and made connections with other pathways. So I'm always impressed by that amount of work that's going on. And then the other thing, as Mr. Neef alluded to, is we've been able to access more grant monies through these programs, including the Project-Based Learning Grant, the Project Lead the Way Grant, and now our third Innovation Pathway Grant related to implementation and planning. So actually fourth. So that's been wonderful. In terms of perceived weaknesses or areas really that we could improve, the pathways truly are in different places. And one of the things that like a layperson might examine when they're looking at this is clearly the innovation pathways are able to access more grant monies because it's filtered through that program at the state level. So that's one inconsistency that we've talked about, that because they've made those commitments, they are able to leverage those opportunities differently. And not everything can be an innovation pathway. It's very specific to regional workforce demand and in alignment with the Mass Hire Blueprint. So that's one concern that we have. Additionally, just the amount of time for curriculum design has varied, again, in part because of grant opportunities. So we've agreed that we need to have more coherence between expectations in each pathway and are working towards that. Again, tomorrow there will be some time for those teachers to work on that. And then maybe one of the biggest concerns is that students and families are not fully aware of what pathways are and what opportunities exist. So some people really understand it well, and in other cases they may not understand the why we're doing this or the importance of it, or there may be misleading misconceptions like, do I have to join a pathway? If I don't join a pathway, does that mean that there isn't a place for me? And that sort of thing. So we want to make sure that we dispel any of that confusion and we're just really clear and concise about what opportunities do exist. We also want to make sure that students who don't opt into a pathway realize that they can still take those electives and that they can access that based on their passions and that sort of thing. Please.
I add one piece there in terms of
Yeah.
some things that we are planning for this year in terms of addressing that issue of student and not being fully aware of what the pathways are and opportunities for next year. Is that in January we're going to be doing a exploratory with the 8th graders through the WIN block. So each 8th grade will have an opportunity through a WIN period it's real good. By the time we get everybody through it, all the sections, it's going to be over a month actually. But within the month of January, as they're going into program of studies, they're going to have an opportunity to have a experience in each pathway with one of the pathways teachers, and then hopefully explaining to them, this is how the pathways work, this is how our pathways work. So this is reinforcing that message of, yes, you can certainly be in a pathway, but you don't have to be in a pathway. And these just might be great electives you have the opportunity to take. And then we have to talk a little bit more. We haven't made a specific plan of what we're going to do in terms of parental outreach. And obviously, I think that would be part of like the traditional 8th grade program of studies night and discussing with parents what does pathways actually mean if you're going to, when you come to the middle high school and how that selection process occurs, specifically for our 8th graders. But we could also do that on a broader scale for everyone 9 through 12. But I wanted to make everybody aware that we are going to do that exploratory piece in January with all of our 8th grade students.
That's great. Thank you. So as Mr. Neef alluded, in terms of opportunities, we'll have that opportunity with 8th grade students so that they can gain that solid understanding. And he also mentioned the opportunity for marketing to parents and teachers and students. I included teachers in there because once or twice it came up that a teacher that is not directly involved with pathways or maybe teaching in a completely different grade level may not fully understand what those are. So we just want to make sure that we build consistent communication around that. In addition, to marketing and exploration, we want to continue to increase the amount of real-world learning design. So we're in the process we're continuing rather to support our PBL cohorts 1 and 2 and make sure that our pathways teachers have those opportunities as well. And then working on solidifying some pre-work experiences. So as you know, one of the requirements of the innovation pathways is to make sure that students have at least 100 hours of a senior internship in that designated area. And we want all of our pathways to be able to access local employers, not just for internships, but even before that in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, to be able to just share what it's like to work in the field. And whether that's done virtually or through field trips, we want to make sure that students have increased understanding of how their learning can connect to their future. And then lastly, what are some limiting factors? So as you know, there are some facility concerns specific to the kitchen. We also are in the process of trying to do some upgrades in the auditorium, or will be in the next several years. And then there are some concerns about how we can diversify and get this work done with the number of students that we have, the staff that we have, the schedule that we have, and the fiscal restraints that we have. So the reality is we're still a small high school, and if you look at the number of electives that we have in our pathways, there is a place for everybody, but in some cases, there may be too many places, right? So I gave the example that we couldn't run horticulture and sustainable agriculture this year, and that's because it doesn't make sense to run a class with like 5, 6, 7 students in it. We want to make sure that there are enough students in there that it is not only fiscally prudent, but instructionally it makes sense. And so whether we decide to say, you know what, these are the courses that we're going to offer, but we're going to offer them every other year, so that a student may take this class in 10th grade and then the next class in 11th grade. And that way, we're not trying to run all of them all of the time. So it's a little bit like a scheduling Tetris puzzle that we have to look at. And I really credit the guidance department for trying to make the best sense of that and working with department chairs on that whole piece. And then obviously managing fluctuations in enrollment. Just like Ruby experiences at the elementary school, we can have cohorts of students that are 140, 150 students, and then sometimes you can have a cohort that's closer to 100, and so it causes that fluctuation again in what we're offering. And then the reality is we do have some students that go on to Old Colony or participate in charter or private education, which again would impact that. So those would be some limitations that we have. And I feel like that moving puzzle piece is something that we'll continue to address on a yearly basis as those things pop up. So I don't think it's like a one and done kind of fix. Mm-hmm. So that concludes kind of the update of where we are through that SWOT framework, and I'd love to answer any questions that you may have.
Anyone? I have a question. So with regards to the course offerings, like the horticultural class, I know that we offer students to take VHS classes. Mm-hmm. Have we ever, has it been discussed or looked at that potentially one of our teachers could take that and offer it as a VHS class so that we could run it?
I don't know about horticulture.
Like or something along those lines.
In the past, we have had teachers offer courses as VHS courses.
Okay.
So we have done that. I still think it still creates a little bit of a constraint in terms of that's still another section that's being taken up in that teacher's schedule. So that means it's something else they couldn't offer. And so we just have to be wary of our class sizes and making sure we can offer everything that we can. But we certainly could. So the answer to the question is yes, we have.
Okay.
Teachers have taught VHS classes.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to do my best to not profess that I know what it takes to put the schedule together or the course offerings, but it was just something that crossed my mind. I think if we've ever been on the other side of offering and teaching, if we've explored that. So thank you for answering that question. And thank you for the detailed presentation. There's such a great opportunity for our students, and I'm really glad that you guys are looking at communicating and getting that story out there more, because I think people really need to hear it and see it so they can understand it and get really excited about it, because it really is such a great, it's been so much great work done. So, and there's so many tremendous opportunities there. So thank you for all of your efforts in applying for the grants. And I know all the hours that it takes to do that is, it's certainly not for the faint of heart. So I appreciate your efforts and everyone's efforts in doing that for the district. So thank you.
I just would like to say that I'm very excited to hear about your introducing it to the 8th grade, because that was something that came up in our meeting with the student advisory committee. was that some of the kids were like, well, I didn't know, I thought I was picking my life, so I was afraid to do that, or, well, I didn't know and now it's too late, where Scott had actually said, actually, it's not too late, you could still get in. So I'm very excited to hear that you're offering that in January for the 8th graders, so they have a better understanding that it's not make or break the rest of their life.
And we're,
Yeah.
right now, we're very early in consideration of making that maybe a more formalized program next year. So as we're starting our scheduling process, we're thinking about ways in which we could possibly do some sort of a little bit more expansive 8th grade exploratory. So more information to come on that. I don't want to talk about that too much, but it's something we're looking at in terms of the scheduling process. And I do think we haven't, as I'm looking at Meredith and Christine, I do think that we haven't really made a plan for how we're going to do this with parents. And so I think we have to work on that piece too, because I think we need to clearly communicate that same messaging with our parents. And then ultimately, sometimes it's about multiple exposures. You just have to say things over and over again and maybe in different ways. And then there's that reality piece, which I think we all face as parents or working with kids or working with anybody, is that until it doesn't necessarily 100% matter to you until it matters to you. Yeah, until your kid is going through that, then that's when you tune in a little bit more. You pay a little closer attention in terms of understanding how things work. So you might be a parent who's an elementary parent or a 6th or 7th grade parent who says, yeah, I hear about this thing's pathways, but it doesn't really affect my student right now. But then when it does, then you're very focused on it and very interested in it. So I think that we always have to be at least cognizant of that. And then we have to just keep putting that messaging out there. And that's what we're going to try to do.
Very true. Thank you very much again.
All right, we're ready to go into upcoming events. We can look at all the exciting things that are going to happen in the next 3 weeks. Because there are a lot of exciting things that are going to happen in the next 3 weeks.
Absolutely, and there's been so many exciting things happening in the past few weeks, right? We had Winter Wonderland, we had Annie at the middle high school, which was amazing. I mean, I know some of the winter sports are underway, and so many good things. And concerts coming up, right?
Yep. So,
Chorus, band.
yep, so we have our National Honor Society induction coming up on Wednesday evening. We have a first grade concert for grade 1 families coming up on Thursday of this week. And on the 13th, we have the band concert. So what band is doing, band's actually going to perform twice this year at the high school level. So they're going to perform on the 13th and the 20th. And then it's going to be the high school chorus concert here. I think it may be the other way around. I have to check with Christine. That says the high school chorus concert on the 13th, but I think that's so the high school chorus concert on the 13th and the middle school chorus concert on the
Middle school
20th.
20th.
Okay. So okay. All right.
Yep.
But the band is performing
Yep.
at both events. And then on the 13th, we have the drama production of Carver Gives Thanks a performance fundraiser. So that's going to be in the cafeteria prior to the concert. So we're looking to link those two events together. We're looking to do a max seating of 100 people. And so we'll put that out there. And anything that's raised during that event is going to go to support Shane Gives Thanks. So that is happening on the 13th. So big night on the 13th. We have the Carver Gives Thanks performance at 5 with the band and the high school chorus concert on the 13th. And then we have the band and middle school chorus concert on the 20th. And we have the band and chorus concert at the elementary school on the 15th. And then you get into our events that happen right before the last couple of days of school. The middle high school is going to do Crusader Day again on the 20th. On the 22nd. They're going to do a pep rally on the 21st. And not that I want to go into a lot of details about it, and I don't know all the details, but there's going to be a middle school event that day as well, where the middle school students are going to have the opportunity, they're going to perform Annie for the student body. So while the high school students are at the pep rally, the middle school students are going to see a performance of Annie. And then very similar to
Nice.
the Crusader Pride assemblies that Mrs. Cabral used to do, none of our middle school students, because of the pandemic, have seen a Crusader Pride assembly. So they're going to do the Annie presentation, do some drawings, do some raffles with the students who win some Crusader Pride T-shirts, and then do a Crusader Pride video And while the middle school's doing that, the high school will be at the pep rally on the 21st.
That's great.
And
That's so
then
great.
the elementary school is doing the jingle jog on the 22nd, which is a traditional event they do on the half day before the holiday break. So the 21st and 22nd will be, all those events are a lot of exciting events for the students in school.
Yep.
Not necessarily for parents, but not say we don't want parents to come, but those are school day events for our students. So there's a lot of things going on over the next couple weeks.
Like, what a terrific send off to vacation.
Yeah, so it's going to be.
It's just great.
So we're excited about that. If it's okay, I'm going to move on.
Absolutely. So that brings us, recommendations from the superintendent.
Okay. So in terms of recommendations, really just a couple pieces here. We have second reading of policy manual sections A and B. I said this is our second reading. At our last meeting, we did not recommend any changes after the first reading. The school district attorney has reviewed, because we were looking, remember, the ADDA criminal background checks and the ADDAR, which was a model Corey policy. And we asked the attorney to look at that, look at our current policies, look at the mass policies, and see if we needed to do any recommendations for changes. After that review, the attorney is actually recommending that the best thing for the district to do would be to adopt the MASC policies. So that is the recommendation. So the only thing that's different in the packet tonight is that we didn't actually have a chance to review the mass policies for criminal background checks and the mass policy for this model Corey policy of ADDA and ADDAR. My recommendation is that we would still go forward and approve sections A and B tonight with those additions, adding in those two policies. So we can spend as little time or as much time as we want here if we want to start going into any of the policies, or I don't know, Jen or Stephanie, if you have any additional comments in regards to the policies.
I would, the only thing I would say is that when we make the motion, the motion is gonna be to approve in form. And approving in form means that we're accepting the changes to the policy manual, but we're not yet adopting them. So nothing in these would become policy tonight. We're just accepting the changes. They won't become policy until we're done doing the entire manual. And that's what it means to approve in form.
And we will follow that process throughout the entirety
Correct.
of reviewing
Yes.
the manual. And then at the end, the committee will take one final vote to approve the adoption of all the policies
Right.
that have been previously adopted in form.
Yes.
So with that, the recommendation would be that we move to approve sections A and B of the policy manual in form that has been presented to the school committee.
So moved?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, so another roll call vote.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Kathleen Sullivan, aye.
Kelly Nemi, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the first reading of policy sections C and D. The changes in these sections were really pretty straightforward. It was again changing the concepts of the pronoun use from he and she to they or them. And the major change here is we're actually striking some policies that we determined were either outdated or not relevant and were not recommended by the MASC. So the policies we're looking to actually eliminate is policy CHCAE, approval of handbooks and directives, which was actually kind of an overview of what is the current law in Massachusetts about student discipline, actually. Policy CL, which was administrative reports, and in section D, policy DJG were vendor relations. Otherwise, in many of the situations, we actually adopted or were proposing, the policy subcommittee is proposing that we adopt the changes and updates that have been recommended by the MASC. And we can look at any policy specifically that people would like to, but I didn't feel like there was anything we needed to take tonight and say, okay, let's go over this in depth, because the nature of the changes were really, as I said, pretty straightforward. I'll ask Ron if there's anything he'd like to talk about at all, and he can say no, it's fine.
I think we covered it at length at the policy subcommittee, and Superintendent Neef said these are really straightforward changes.
So there's no action required tonight because it's the first reading. But I don't know if, Stephanie or Jen, if you have any thoughts about section C or D of the policy manual that the policy subcommittee has reviewed.
Nothing comes to mind. I mean, there,
Yeah.
on a lot of them, we weren't far off, and it was just standard updates to changes in life over 20 years.
Right? If only the rest of the sections were as, I guess, as
Yeah, we hope-
easy as
yeah, we
these
hope we
two
don't,
sections were. I mean, we
You're
reviewed everything as thoroughly as we did, A and B, but this was a lot lighter, I guess. I know we have some thicker sections coming along the way before we get through this process, hopefully by April. That is the plan.
Yep.
But
All right, sorry, then I will move on to, or ask Ron to move on to
absolutely,
budget
budget
transfers.
transfers.
Yeah, great. So your monthly financial memo is pretty light this time around. No major updates from Washington and Beacon Hill. December brings us to the end of the second financial quarter. You have your payroll and expenses for the warrants down to the penny there. And then your transfers and budget are in your Excel sheet. Your first tab is your quarter two budget, essentially by the end of November. Again, that rolls you up to the penny for your budget and your balance. And then your second tab are just your internal transfers. You only have a couple in November. I'll give you a quick summary of those. I'll pull it up here for everything. There we go. You've got custodial subs. We've got a sub right now over at the elementary school, and so that requires the transfer. We need to replace a pressure transducer over at the elementary school. It essentially just takes it measures the pressure for the water system and changes that into an electrical impulse that measures it out for you. We had some contract services for SPED that required the transfer, some furniture over the ALT program, a new membership that was unanticipated for this year, and just some additional supplies, $121.83, the elementary school. I'll answer any questions you might have on budget, on transfers, anything you see.
Anyone have any questions? I thought everything was pretty straightforward. Thank you, as always, for all of the detail. I appreciate, the accountant in me appreciates being able to look at those line items, so thank you for that. So with that,
I'll make a motion to vote and approve the budget transfers as presented.
I'll second.
great, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Kathleen Sullivan, aye.
Kelly Mimi, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
And that brings us to reports from the school committee, which is almost a record, I think, at 8:02. I bet Gina could. I bet Gina could confirm that. That's got to be a record. One thing I want to say super quick. MASC has board of directors meeting next week, so looking forward to going over the conference that was in November. And then our new president-elect will be taking over in January, so I will be attending the presidential retreat in Revere, as as Stacy would say. So they have some really great learning opportunities. So I will, of course, bring back information to share with the committee, as I typically do. I just wanted to share that really quickly. So our division is going to have some upcoming trainings, one surrounding mental health, DEI. Also, I've begun planning the Cape Cod Collaborative Annual Legislative Breakfast that's going to be taking place in February, and we're actually planning to have it in person this year. So that is very exciting. So I will make sure that I let everyone know once we have a date schedule in case anyone is able to attend. And that is just a really quick MASC update.
I would just like to say that there were so many exciting things tonight, meaning the special ed parental advisory committee, because obviously special ed is very close to my heart. learning about the Pathways Grant, the athletic advisory, like just really exciting things happening tonight. I wish all our meetings were this exciting. Also, I just wanted to say that I had the pleasure of volunteering to serve cocoa at the Winter Wonderland at the elementary school this weekend. And that was amazing. It was really great to actually like get to meet the kids and meet parents and be involved. And then my second favorite thing, and also I wanted to give a shout out to Kat Crampf, the music teacher, and her amazing chorus. They did such a great job. And then the second really fun thing I got to do this weekend was I got to see the middle school, Tammy Johnson and her talented troupe of thespians put on Annie for Kids, which from childhood, that has always been one of my all-time favorite. Like I watched that so much, my poor brothers. And they did not disappoint me. They did not let me down. Screll, your cameo was perfect. I love seeing you get involved like that. The kids loved it, clearly.
Yeah.
So that was just a shout out to Tammy and to Kat for their wonderful work with their students and the performances. And I'm really looking forward to the next things that I can get involved in with the students.
Thank you.
I will tag on and say I also enjoyed Annie. And I wanted to give a shout out. I loved what Tammy said earlier about like I did my best today. And so to both Tammy Johnson and Jillian Griffin, who is our middle high school chorus teacher, you did your best. And your first musical production was top notch. And they both took a lot of time. The students that were involved did 2 rehearsals a week. One rehearsal focused on music with Miss Griffin, the other one on like staging and, you know, all the other aspects of a play with Miss Johnson. And so that was an incredible amount of time and dedication on both staff and students. And then there was Jasper was the senior intern, and then they had another assistant director. And so that was just an excellent production. I just wanted to thank and congratulate Miss Johnson and Miss Griffin for their first successful musical play for the middle school. I enjoyed the hot cocoa that Katie served at Winter Wonderland. The staff and PTO did an awesome job with that event. I'm excited for the upcoming concerts, and National Honor Society induction is going to be really exciting this week. And so great job to those students that have earned that accolade. And I just want to wish everyone a very happy holiday, whatever you may celebrate, and we will see you next year.
I know, it's crazy. Kelly?
Yes, I just want to echo Katie and Jen's sentiments. The middle school play was really awesome, and I was honored to attend that on Saturday night. They did a great job, and what a talented pool of student thespians, as Katie said. They really did a great job. And the Winter Wonderland was wonderful, so I got to attend that as well. I just want to say thank you to all of the teachers, the PTO, to the administration, and to everyone for helping to make this year so great. We appreciate you. I appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to continuing the rest of the year. And I hope everybody has a happy, safe holiday where they get to spend lots of time with their friends and family and enjoy it. Enjoy your well-deserved break.
Right, exactly. I mean, we have so many wonderful things coming up leading up to vacation. It's really so great to see the kids smiling and laughing and seeing the teachers interact with them and all the parents. And I was on marshmallow duty at the hot cocoa station, which I have to say I think was the funner job. It was certainly less of a risk of getting burned. But it was so much fun just to see kids get so excited about marshmallows and parents and just the whole sense of camaraderie throughout the building, and, you know, seeing Santa and Mrs. Claus and seeing the kids get so excited. It was just really, really great to see. So I'm so very thankful that we're able to have all of these amazing community events. And I'm so thankful that everyone's spirits seem to be so much higher than they have been in previous years. And the future is so bright. And there are so many great things that happen in our district every day, like Mr. Neve has said several times, and I'm just so thankful that we're able to experience some of those things right along members of our district and our students. So we're here for the students. So to actually get them see and live out their passions and sing, right, and dance and
amazing.
act, and looking forward to band and the Thanksgiving football game. It was great to see so many parents there supporting the team, and the cheerleaders did a great job. The band sounded great, so it's been really wonderful. So I'm very grateful for all of those opportunities, and yeah, happy holidays, everyone, and we'll see you back here in January, which is just crazy, but. Thank you, everyone. So with that, if someone would like to make a motion to
I'll make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, so our last roll call vote of the evening.
Jennifer Pratt, aye.
Kathleen Sullivan, aye.
You're muted.
Sorry. Kelly Nemi, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
8:10
Thank you. Good
p.m.
night.
Good night. That has to be a record.